Early settlement in Gippsland began near water, where the land was accessible by river and sea. The Valley of Mists, a coastline of mangrove swamps and vast, untamed forests, stretched from Wilson's Promontory eastwards to the Gippsland Lakes. Tarraville, upriver from Port Albert, was chosen as the site for Christ Church, Gippsland's first Anglican church. Completed in 1856, it is probably Victoria's oldest wooden church. In line with medieval tradition, its porch faces a crossing point on the Tarra River, a welcoming sign for travellers. To a tourist, Christchurch might look like a pretty little timber building in the middle of nowhere. But the view is different to wood conservator Bill Snook, employed by the state government agency Heritage Victoria.
150 years ago, this church probably looked similar to how it does today, but time moves on, and now this old building is really starting to show its age.
Tarraville's maritime environment, with its moist, salty conditions, has caused deterioration of the walls, clues to major restoration problems ahead. These are evident in rotting wood and cracked timber slabs. Many joints are coming apart due to massive pine tree roots shifting the foundations. To assess the extent of conservation required to repair the whole building, Heritage Victoria has financed a pilot restoration project. With medieval features like trefoil tracery windows and an open pillared porch, Christchurch is a valuable cultural asset. Because of its unique historic and architectural significance, it is included on Victoria's Heritage Register, which protects it by law.
We're going to start by singing the first hymn, number 385, The Church is One Foundation.
The old church has character. Designed by a Scotsman, Jonathan Pettit, and based on a style popular in colonial Australia, Carpenter Gothic, it has, as its name suggests, a simple exposed box-shaped timber frame. This is offset by decorative touches like scallop barge boards. Committed to preserving buildings like Christchurch, archaeological sites, shipwrecks, gardens and cemeteries, Heritage Victoria draws on a large range of experts to carry out restoration work meeting established conservation principles. As Christchurch is essentially a timber building, Heritage Victoria has employed wood conservator Bill Snook. For the pilot project, a small and self-contained part of the church was selected, the vestry.
Conserving the vestry separately is ideal. It provides us with a pilot study to use as a guide for restoring the rest of the church.
The first step is identifying the timber species. Whoever built this church obviously knew his timbers. For the roof shingles, he chose mountain ash because it splits easily. For the wall slabs, he used locally felled yellow stringy bark, which is more durable even when in contact with the soil. Part of the mystery of restoration is uncovering new evidence that sometimes alters an old story. Laboratory analysis of wood samples now negates an earlier widely held belief that the church was prefabricated from Tasmanian blackwood. To systematically dismantle the vestry wall, each section is photographed and numbered before taking it apart, one panel at a time. This way, it can be accurately rebuilt after repair.
The construction method used is unique yet very simple. A tongue and groove system, a bit like floorboards laid on edge. It's called a drop slab. No nails are needed, and you can see how easily I can take this section of wall apart.
Looks easy enough. But the church with no nails, as the locals call it, surprised even a seasoned wood conservator like Bill.
As soon as I started opening up the walls, I found what you'd never expect. The tongue is made of iron, not wood. I've never seen a building with iron tongues before.
They probably thought it would last a lot longer. Ironically, this rare form of construction is endangering the future of Christchurch. The weather is now entering many joints, and corrosion of the iron tongues is splitting the timber slabs. For the early colonial builders, wood was the natural choice. Gippsland was a timber-rich area. To the north lay the Tarraville, with huge stands of yellow stringy bark and mountain ash, the most likely source of the church's building materials. Tarraville's eminent physician, Dr. George Dixon Headley, was prophetic. "I see a time, not too distant, when the gaps in the virgin forest made by the present settlers will extend over the whole lower district. The eye will rest on well-stocked homesteads of a happy and prosperous race of farmers." And so it was. Soon, grazing land provided food and trade in fat cattle. Tarraville was then a thriving township on the route to Sale, a watering stop for weary passengers travelling by Cobb & Co coaches. The Reverend Willoughby Bean, in the early 1850s, thought it the ideal place to build Christchurch. The plans show a building designed for a congregation of 180. The overall form is a simple rectangular nave, with the vestry on the right and the choir room on the left. Mr. Crosley, the local ironmonger, seems the most likely supplier of the iron tongues. His famous daughter, Ada, who sang in the church and taught Sunday school, became a world-renowned opera star. She had a voice luscious as a Carlsbad plum, translucent as pure rock crystal. You could almost hear its echo around the little rustic nave. But just 4 years after Christchurch was completed, Tarraville was starting to decline. The focus was now moving to Port Albert as a government trading centre. The opening of railways to Sale and Alberton changed patterns of trade, bypassing Tarraville. When the Alberton line was extended to Yarram, Yarram came alive, and Tarraville faded into a ghost town. Today, Yarram is keeping up with the times. The attractive main street reflects the history of the past and modern development. Port Albert is now mainly a fishing and tourist centre. Everywhere, relics of yesterday surround you. The old trading wharves. Close by, the original hotel. The Maritime Museum, once the Bank of Victoria. Where are they now? The early settlers of colonial days. Their life and death can be read in the windswept grasses of the district cemetery, in the skeleton of the commercial hotel, the last remaining watering hole at Tarraville, and remnants of the old jetty on the Tarra River, where cargo vessels came up on the tide to unload their wares. Except for the sound of the wood conservators at work, there's little left here to recall that Christchurch was once at the heart of a lively community. Bill and his assistant are now ready to reconstruct the wall. But first, new timber, correctly matched with the original species, is fitted into the old framework to replace rotted areas. Round wooden pegs have been inserted to join the sections together. As much as possible of the original slabs are put back into the walls. Only where they are excessively rotted does the wood conservator replace them with whole new slabs of properly aged yellow stringy bark. The iron tongues pose a different challenge. In Heritage Victoria's Conservation Laboratory in Melbourne, the tongues that can be reused are immersed in an electrolytic bath to remove rust. Where the iron is corroded beyond repair, conservators have come up with a polyethylene substitute. They chose polyethylene because it's strong like iron, but won't rust. A new material to solve an old problem. The wood conservator also has to be a detective. Bill is scraping through layers of paint, looking for evidence of the original colour scheme. Another surprising discovery is made. In contrast to its present white shade, the church was originally an ochre colour. Colour matching by Heritage Victoria has produced a paint as close to the original as possible.
In the vestry afterwards, you're most welcome to see a little bit of what has started, which is a sort of a test pattern. But this building is on the way. And as we give thanks, we remember that for 142 years Christ Church has been used for worship.
142 years may separate the lives of the Reverend Russell McQueen and Christchurch's first minister, Willoughby Bean. But they share a common vision: the church as a landmark in the living history of Gippsland. We have so few remaining examples of our early colonial buildings. Heritage Victoria has spent $19,000 on conserving and restoring the vestry. But a lot of major work still lies ahead. The cost of repairing the whole church may reach $100,000. The conservation of Christchurch has brought together Heritage Victoria, the church, its congregation, and the people of the Shire of Wellington. Through their commitment, Christchurch will proudly stand, a link with Victoria's vanishing past and our colonial heritage.